All right, so it is my great honor to introduce today Brother Chris Douglas from Tombstone Territorial Lodge number 5. I am very excited about this talk. I've heard a little something about what might be here, and this is going to be pretty cool. So, Brother Douglas holds the appointed office of Head of Temple Management and is Chairman of the Lodge History Committee. He is also currently the Assistant Secretary of King Solomon number 5 Territorial Lodge. He started his Masonic journey at a young age, having 4 family members active in Indiana lodges. He was initiated 9th June 2014, passed 29th September 2014, and raised 27th October 2014. He's approaching his 5th year as a Master Mason, and his decision to become a Mason was one of the best decisions he's made. He used to say he was a baby in Masonry compared to those he sat in lodge with. However, all are seeking further light, whether it's a newly raised brother or a 70-year Master Mason. With that, let's welcome Brother Chris Douglas to the stage.
Well, thank you for the warm and fuzzies, everybody. I appreciate that. First off, I want to offer a special thanks to Brian for inviting me out. If it wasn't for him, I would be getting tattooed right now. I'm okay with this. The other downside to being out here is you guys' weather's not nice. It's 78 and sunny at home. See, you know. So all in all, I become obsessed with the history. I got tired of listening to people say, well, you know, maybe somebody should. Well, maybe one day somebody will go down that archive and see what's there. And after a while, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go down there. So I had to find somebody that had a key. Well, that was fun. Everybody's got keys to everything until you need something. Well, then I got involved with temple management, and we rekeyed the lodge. It was amazing the amount of people, hey, my key doesn't work. Well, what do you need in there for? Well, I want to see what's there. You've had that key for 30 years, and now you want to see what's there? So that being said, I've tried to preserve as much as I can. In digging in the archives, our building itself is historic. It was built in 1881, and it's adobe. How many people here know what adobe is? That's the most hands I've ever seen on that answer, and even from people in Arizona. That's impressive. Our building was built as a Masonic lodge and a community center in 1881. If you look to, well, let's see if I can work this laser pointer. The building here, our lodge is upstairs on the 4 windows. We went under our dispensation from California. Requirement from California was it had to be on the 2nd floor. Now the stairway going up to our lodge is extremely narrow and extremely steep. There's a lot of brothers that can't make the stairs, myself included sometimes when my knees hurt. Going to that, you'll understand the staircase comment after a bit. Going along with this, the building itself was used as a community center by the entire town and area. There is a full theater under our lodge that still puts on plays even today. They were doing rehearsals the day I flew out. I believe that it goes active the first weekend in May. It's been a many things in the front where it's now what they call the lobby. At one point, there was 3 different businesses in there. And they've got it all opened up again and tried to preserve it as best they can. It's on the National Historic Register of the Historic Register of Places, I guess you call it. And it doesn't look anything like that picture anymore. There's now a full balcony, or not balcony, but awning on the front. They redid it. And up at the top where you can see the name with the gray splotches of paint above it, they repainted the front. And if you can see around the side here, over here, that is the square and compass with the G, and it says King Solomon Territorial Lodge. The brother that had that done recently, unfortunately, has passed, but one of his things was he wanted somebody to know that that was the lodge. Now, I know there's a few of you that have been in Tombstone, haven't made it to the lodge. I don't know if it's anybody in here, but I've talked to people since I got here. That is the most identifiable building in Tombstone. As soon as you come into town, you see the gigantic square and compass on the wall. And it's 40 foot in the air, so it's hard to miss. And I get people all the time, was one of the key holders, I get calls. Hey, so this guy's in town visiting, he'd like to see the lodge. Sure, takes me 7 minutes to leave my house and drive to the lodge. I've opened that lodge for as many as 40 people, or as little as one. We opened a lodge for the whole pretense of we're Masons. We're not a secret society, we're a society with secrets. Why would I not want to show off this beautiful historic building? That being said, there's a gentleman downstairs, he's wearing a kilt, has a beard, he's one of the widow's sons. He's set in lodge, and him describing what it's like to be in that lodge during a windstorm just made me smile. The building is held together by 2 steel cables that run the length of the building. He said, those little cables, they'll vibrate and they'll sing to you. Oh, they will. I spent 3 years as the tiler, and right above my head was those cables. And I had to wonder, when the wind started blowing, do I have time to make it down those stairs? So speaking of the wind, as you see how I'm attired up here, this is what we wear to lodge with the exception of the hat. My actual lodge hat I couldn't bring because it's too easily damaged. How many know what that little rope is on the back of my hat? Anybody? Yes, ma'am? Could be. Now, what's it for? That's accurate. That being the case, since you answered the question correctly, you get a prize. Historically, we get a bad rap. We get accused of everything under the sun thanks to the internet. That's okay. You can call me what you will, because at the end of the day, I'm still a brother. You get guys that, well, I'm such and such degree and did this and did that. That's great. You're still just a brother. I've had guys want to argue with me over the history. Well, I outrank you. No, you don't. And like he said when he opened, we're all seeking further light. Yeah, I'm a new Mason. I've only got 5 years. I've argued with a 70-year Mason and proved him wrong. Should I? Well, maybe not, but I did. With my lodge, there's so much history that there's been documentation, but it gets thrown in a box and shoved in a closet. How many of you have seen the movie Tombstone? Okay, you'll recognize a couple of the names I'm about to say. How about John Behan? Or Sheriff Behan from the movie? He was a real person. That was accurate. He also petitioned King Solomon for membership. How about Virgil Earp? Okay, there's a few hands. Virgil Earp also petitioned the lodge for membership. Would anybody like to see a copy of that petition? Mr. MC, could you do me a favor? Pat, send a couple of those around. Sure. And split those 2 up. So what you have there are copies of the front page of those 2's petitions. Now, how many of you remember the scene where Wyatt Earp walks in the bar and ends up slapping Billy Bob Thornton? Pretty much everybody's seen the movie. The guy standing behind the bar's name's Milt Joyce. Also petitioned the lodge. Now, I have his petition, but I didn't make copies of that one. Interestingly enough, the August stated meeting we had, September stated meeting, we had 14 ballots. Only 3 were accepted. And none of the 3 were the names I've just read. Yes, Virgil Earp was blackballed. Now, do we know why? Well, no, we never will know. There's all kinds of speculation, all kinds of reasoning, but we'll never know the truth. It's one of them. It's just like this. I found Virgil's petition thrown in a box that said Christmas decorations. Now, who would have thought, okay, there's going to be historical stuff in here that is priceless? I wouldn't have. I opened it to see if it was something to throw away. It goes along with the history. You know, for those of you that are lodge members, are you active with your history committee? I mean, out here, there ought to be a lot of history with the older lodges. I recently went to a lodge, and out in Arizona, if you were founded as a lodge before the state was made, you have the designation Territorial Lodge, which King Solomon number 5 is the 5th lodge, and we are a Territorial Lodge. And I asked the guys, including some upper echelon Masons, will say, how many of you belong to a Territorial Lodge, knowing that I'm standing in a Territorial Lodge? I only had one person raise their hand. You know how sad that was for me? You don't know the history of your own lodge. Now, I bet I can go through here and I can ask individuals and they can tell me something interesting about every lodge in this, that they've been to. But your own lodge, if you don't take care of the history, who's going to? This whole speech, talk, whatever you want to call that I'm doing, is about history. You know, Tombstone was founded because of silver, and it's still on the map today because of blood. By blood, you've got the Hollywood aspect of it, how they've glamorized the OK Corral, and how they've glamorized the individuals involved. The movie Tombstone, the movie Wyatt Earp, Shootout at the OK Corral, et cetera, et cetera. You know, with this, my involvement, I got involved with Lodge, and I was like, one of these days I'm going to be a gunfighter. Because you see all these guys doing reenactments. Well, I better watch what I wish for. I got my wish. I now run a gunfight group, which is 17 members, 7 of which are brothers. It's real fun when you get to shoot your DDGM. And he can't do anything about it. It has a whole new aspect of the picture to the right is inside the lodge. That is the night of my Master Mason raising and some of those present. As you see, it's a pretty big open room. See this right here? And right here? That's 2 of the steel cables that hold that building together. They're about a little over 3/8 of an inch in diameter. It's interesting because on the outsides there's the I-beams that they have mounted. It's one of those you got to wonder, why am I in this building? But, I mean, it is what it is. You get what you put into it. Let's see. As you see, Schieffelin Hall has changed appearance numerous times. From this to this. I mean, this was 1902, 1934, and then the other one I think is 1999. Tombstone was founded by a gentleman by the name of Ed Schieffelin. He was a cavalry scout and prospector for what was then Camp Huachuca. Try saying that fast. Camp Huachuca was there because of the Indians and whatnot. He would go out on his days off, and they kept telling him, Ed, what are you doing? He said, I'm going out looking for silver. I'm looking for gold. I'm looking for my fortune. I'm going to find that, money stone. His whole thing was, they told him, Ed, the only stone you're going to find when you go out there is your tombstone. So lo and behold, as he's out there, he's riding along, and he finds a silver vein on top of the ground. There's debate over how big it is. It's somewhere between 14 foot and 7 foot long and a foot to 3 foot wide on the ground, up on the surface. And he named that claim the Tombstone as a joke to all the guys at the camp. Well, as we grew, word got out, silver boom. Town just exploded. It's one of those where no matter how you look at it, everybody wants money. If I laid a $100 bill up here, how many of you'd come and get it? You see my point. I've seen all these faces just light up. Oh, you gonna put $100 up there? If I did that, my wife would kill me. Ed hit it big. He found, I believe it was a total of 3 different strikes, sold out, and moved to Alaska. He went to Alaska and did it again. He hit 3 more big ones. And then, unfortunately, he caught pneumonia and passed. He had a weak heart, and the pneumonia combined was enough to take him under. Now, he was not a Mason, but he was greatly appreciative of the Masons. They always, when he was destitute, in between jobs with the Army, they would take care of him. They'd feed him, give him a meal, here's a couple bucks, whatever. When he died, they sent his body back to Tombstone from Nome, Alaska. Now, this is 1880s. How bad did that smell? They packed him in dry ice, put him in a train car, and from Nome, Alaska to Tombstone, Arizona. I don't have a picture with me of his grave, but it's what he wanted was what they called a claim marker, which is a little round pile of stones. That's how they marked claims back then. Well, his claim marker's 50 feet tall and about 30 foot in diameter. But it's what he wanted. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here right now. His brother Al and another gentleman went together and built Schieffelin Hall at Ed's request. That's how the Masons got their home, where we're at today, and have met there ever since it was built, with the exception of 2 months when we had to be out of the building because the building was being gassed for termites. It's a majestic old building, kind of like this one here. The only difference is this floor doesn't talk to you near like the floor there will. More pictures of Schieffelin Hall. As you see, it went into some severe disrepair. And to look at it today, it's a sense of pride. There was a gentleman by the name of Harold Love that bought the building in the 1960s. And he spent in excess of $2 million in the 1960s. Now, today's money, $2 million is not that much when you're talking about building restoration. We're talking about the 1960s, guys. That's a lot of money. And today that building is still there, used every day. The lodge is there. They do the plays and stuff. On one side of it is the Tombstone Court, the magistrate court. Down in the hall, they actually have city council meetings. That's where they hold court. They have balls, like grand dance balls. They have Christmas balls, you name it, the different events. The Arizona Rangers meet there, which, yes, those are still real. They still exist. I get a lot of, Rangers aren't real. That's out of the old Western novels. No, it's real. This guy right here. How many of you know what under dispensation is? Anybody? Okay. As I said, we were under dispensation from California. Now here's a question. When you're under dispensation, do you have an elected or an appointed master? Wow, impressive. Usually that's a trick when I get everybody looking around going, what is it? That was impressive. This is Judge Wells Spicer. He was the first appointed master of King Solomon. He also was the judge that presided over the Earp trial after the infamous shooting at the OK Corral. Now, you remember I talked about the staircase, right? How steep they are and how narrow. During the trial, he had so many death threats that he lived inside the lodge room. It was the most defensible place in town. 18-inch thick adobe walls, which no gun back then was going to punch through, short of a cannon, and easily covered by a double-barrel shotgun up the staircase or out the fire escape back staircase. Took him, I believe it was right at 3 months before he could go back to his house. Sad note for Judge Spicer, in 1994, he became NPD. 1894, sorry. I was like, yeah. Woo, that's an old guy. 1894, he become NPD. And shortly thereafter, he sold his home, His wife had left him. His daughter had passed away. He bought a donkey and some prospecting supplies, rode off into the desert, and was never seen again. There's a lot of debate whether he went to Mexico and started over, or he went somewhere else and started over. From the different newspaper articles and whatnot that I could dig up in research, it appears that he was just that depressed and had given up on living and went out in the desert. The catch to it is he may have gone to Mexico. From where that lodge sets to the Mexican border is 27 miles. Depending on which way you go, it's even less. So it's hard to say. But without him, we wouldn't be here. He was one of the instrumental guys in getting the lodge under dispensation and then chartered once the Arizona Grand Lodge was formed in 1882. As Masons, we're all about truth, charity, faith. Well, for us, giving back to the community is a big one. We donate to the Tombstone Community Food Bank. We give them man hours. We have guys that go out there and help run the food bank. We have 2 guys on their administrative board. We go out, we help with the food distribution, you name it, we do it. We also are a big supporter of the Tombstone Small Animal Shelter, which is a no-kill shelter. Anybody that has anything to do with animals knows how expensive they are. How many of you have a pet, cat, dog, something? They're not cheap. And at any given point, they'll have 40 dogs, 60 cats, etc. I had one guy that didn't want to, I won't single him out so much, but he's like, well, just open the gate and let them out. Let them run wild. Yeah, okay, so then now they're coyote food, bobcat food, cougar food, whatever. And now that animal once more comes into town. Well, I can't get a dog, so I'm just going to bite you. Why would we do that? Somebody's got a bagpipe ringer, I approve. Hollyweird and what it's done to our fraternity. How many of these names do you recognize? This is obviously not the entire list. These are ones that I've come across just in minor searching. I have personally met Buck Taylor. He is a wonderful brother, hell of an artist, and had no idea when he wore his stuff in the movie Tombstone just how famous it would make him in the Masonic circle. He eats, breathes, and sleeps Masonry. I've been to the lodge where John Wayne was raised. I've actually met the man that knocked John Wayne down and lived to tell about it. It's one of them. We all know what reality is, and we know how Hollywood will paint the picture. Now, I know several of you raised your hand. You've seen the movie Tombstone. How many of you have seen Wyatt Earp? There's your historical movie. Wyatt Earp will give you more of the Earp family history than Tombstone ever will. Realistically, cowboys in the movie Tombstone wore the red sashes. That's Hollywood. That's not real. I could sit here and pick apart the holsters and everything else. One of the other guys, the guy that played opposite Buck Taylor, Peter Sherayko. Now, he's not a brother, but I got to know him real well. He comes to Tombstone quite a bit. I've been out to his ranch. Him and I sat there one day, and we wrote, just taking notes, talking over scotch. And it ended up being 6 pages in 2 movies of errors that we found in what they wore. Versus historically correct Hollywood. And it's the same way with us. Look at what Hollywood has done to us. We went from being a secret organization that everybody wanted to be one. Oh, you're the Illuminati. Oh, you're those guys that are devil worshippers. Prove it. And don't even start about the goat. There's a couple of you that heard my little personal experience when it comes to the goat. I won't repeat it because there's ladies present. Going back to my lodge and the history of 5, what you see here is the current master's apron. You see the designation TL as the Territorial Lodge, like we discussed. The senior warden's chair, one of the officers of our lodge, did eventually go on to be Grand Master. That is Most Worshipful Brother Vern Hagees. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us either. It's one of them. Our lodge furniture, our altar, by lodge furniture, the 3 pedestal officer chairs, pedestals, the secretary's desk, the treasurer's desk, the pillars, and the Tyler's sword are from 1881, used every day. With the exception of the Tyler's sword, it's been retired finally. The chairs themselves were restored in 1986, and it was minimal restoration, basically new padding in the seat, because that was the big problem. Any of you that sat in chairs like that know that's a problem. And I see the head bobbing. Yeah, there's people that know. It's one of them. We take a lot of pride in that furniture. I have spent countless hours with a toothbrush cleaning the pillars because people in the past, I'll get it later. Somebody else will do it. There again, it's taking ownership of the history. Because if you don't do it, well, somebody will. You ever meet that somebody? Give me a call. I want to meet him. These are what we call our parade jewels. Note that they're just on a simple blue rope. No big deal, right? This is what the master wears now. This particular jewel is very unique. This was made in 1881 of silver mined in the Tombstone mine. It can't be replaced. It is literally a priceless relic. Our insurance guy loves me. That was one of the stipulations I hit Brian with. Coming out here, I've got to have somewhere to lock this stuff up. I don't want this sitting in my hotel room and be the guy to go back and say, hey guys, I hate to tell you this, but we lost this, this, and this. I think I'd probably get kicked out of lodge. But we had a brother who was a silversmith on Allen Street. A bunch of the guys went together. They went down to the mine. They bought the silver ore from the mine, took it to him. He refined it, made them. Every one of the officers' jewels is made of the 1881 silver, used in every time we put anything on it. We have to have the collars, the deacon rods, the steward rods. That was all done that way. Now, of course, the rods have taken the most of the abuse. And unfortunately, the centers of the 2 deacon rods is gone. After a while, they broke out. So they also retired the steward rods at the same time. Case in point, something's missing. Now, no idea where, when, where, why. Somebody obviously took it and took it home. It's pure silver. Who wouldn't? It's one of them. How do I put this? You have something that is very valuable to you. Let's put it away and keep it safe. That's what you'd think. My lodge is like, no, we're not going to put them up. We're going to continue wearing them. There's been brother after brother try to get us to retire these jewels. We're known for them. What would you rather wear setting in the east? Some flimsy piece or a historic piece of silver? Exactly right. I went ahead and brought this one too. Senior Deacon. Now, afterwards, if anybody wants to see these up close, I have no problem with that. I just ask you not put them on, because I'd hate to have to knock you down. These are handmade by a gentleman of the craft. It blows my mind when you get into the embroidery, the engraving, the detail that he did in these. You can sit here and look at these and see little scroll marks that it's like, he did that by hand. I don't have the patience for that. I'd break it. Another one of my favorite things is the history and the bylaws. How big's your bylaws for your lodge? 1 page, 50 pages? How many pages? 20? Brian? 700 pages in bylaws? Wow. Do you guys get to breathe in your lodge? This little book is my lodge's original bylaws from 1881. Very simple. The thing I get the most humor out of, Frank Eastman and Company, printers, 1882, San Francisco. Do you know who Frank Eastman was, anybody? So you guys steal all my thunder. But it's so simple. It does everything we need. But now, our bylaws for the lodge, if printed in the same size, will be about 50 pages. Why did we make things harder? Should have made it easier, not harder. So, like with our gyms, we've got everybody to agree we won't wear them outside the lodge. And then I go and do this. You know, they didn't mind so much when I went to northern Arizona and did it. They don't even know that I took it as short of the master. The master's the only one who knows that I have these gyms outside of the lodge. Now the catch to that was his request. I don't want him interfering with you doing your presentation. Okay, because he knows that if they had told me no, they wouldn't have came. I wouldn't have done it. Mike, can I steal you for a minute? I'm going to send Mike around with this so you guys get an idea of what I'm talking about. This is our original square. This is pure silver from 1881. To me, it's a piece of the history. And like I was having a discussion with somebody earlier, everybody's like, well, why is it not polished? Well, I suggested that. They threatened to beat me. They want to keep the tarnish. They want to keep the wear, show that it's used. And I'm like, I can get all this off, make them nice and pretty, and we can put them away. No, we're wearing them. That has become a very, very big hot point in the lodge. We will not retire these jewels. It's what we're known for. That sets on the holy book. There's a compass that goes right along with it. However, do we have anybody in here from TSA? Just as well. I was going to bring the compasses that goes with that, and I spent 2 hours on the phone with TSA. Guys like, yeah, it won't be a problem. It's obvious. It's part of a presentation. And the more I thought about it, it's like, sure as I do, I'm going to get to the gate, and I'm going to have that one jerk. Nope, you can't take this. We have to throw it away. Oh, hell no. So it got left at home. Not at my home, but at lodge. I did not, again, want to be the guy to go back and say, hey, you know our historic compasses? Yeah, it's in the trash at Sky Harbor Airport. Yeah, no. That's another one I can't bring myself to do. I'm sorry? I didn't have a choice. I didn't book the flight. But we won't point any fingers at who did. Friday. Yesterday. And I go home tomorrow. Where it's warm. This is warm. You can keep it. I'll stay home. So, all in all, I mean, I could stand up here and we could talk for hours. But the fun part for me is the questions. So at this point, does anybody have a question? Are you kidding me? That's fine. I'm going home.